Deep in Ethiopia's highlands lie megaliths so massive, so precise, that they rival the ancient structures we see in Egypt and Peru. Yet they're barely studied, and I think it's possible archaeologists might be missing something about their true age and origins. What if Ethiopia's ancient past is far older and more mysterious than we're being told? Welcome to the first episode in my series on Ethiopia's ancient megaliths. Ethiopia has so many incredible ancient sites and artifacts, it's hard to know where to start. It has ancient temples with unexplainable carvings, precision-cut underground chambers, the world's largest standing obelisks, rock-hewn monolithic churches, and fields of standing stones with carvings eerily similar to those in Peru and Turkey. We can't cover it all today, so this will be the first in a series of episodes covering these ancient sites. Today we're going to discuss the incredible adorned obelisks and underground chambers in Axum. Axum is located in the far north-central part of Ethiopia. It was a major center of trade and culture, flourishing between the 1st and 7th centuries AD. This kingdom adopted Christianity as its state religion in the early 4th century AD, making Ethiopia one of the first regions in the world to officially embrace Christianity. At Axum's core lies the Northern Stelae Park, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. This 120 by 80 meter open field contains over 120 stele and tall stone obelisks, some intricately carved, others rough-hewn. There are 3 particularly interesting obelisks that are found in the Stele Park. When they were all still standing, archaeologists believe they looked something like the rendering I have on the screen. Notice the size of the people in this image compared to the massive scale of these megaliths. What a sight these must have been. The Great Stele was the world's largest standing obelisk, when it stood, that is. It has since fallen and still lies scattered across the ground. At 33 meters tall and 520 tons, this beast is nearly twice as large as Egypt's Luxor obelisk. It was carved from a single block, a granite-like stone with a 6 on the Mohs scale. It was hauled 7 kilometers from a nearby quarry. Local legend says that this was done with the help of mammoths. Its carvings are absolutely incredible. They mimic a multi-story tower, complete with false windows and false doors. The granite surface is meticulously etched to represent structural elements, giving it a 3-dimensional, almost sculptural quality, despite being a single stone. At the base of the front face, the stele features a prominent false door, similar to the false doors we see carved all over the world. The door is approximately 2 meters tall and 1 meter wide, framed with multiple layers of carved borders, giving it the appearance of a heavy, ornate door jamb. Above the false door, the stele is divided into segments that resemble multiple stories, each marked by false windows. These windows are carved to imitate functional openings in a multi-story building. The windows have a layered design with shallow grooves, creating a shadow effect, as if the windows are set deep into the wall. At its base is an impressive subterranean chamber, which we'll explore soon. The second obelisk, the Obelisk of Axum, is 25 meters high and weighs 170 tons. It also has intricate window and door carvings, as well as a distinct crescent-shaped crown, which is often interpreted as a solar or lunar symbol. This obelisk fell long ago. However, it was rediscovered in 1935 during Italy's occupation of Ethiopia. Mussolini ordered it cut into 5 pieces and shipped to Rome. In 1947, the UN ruled that the stele should be brought back to Ethiopia, and after decades, the promise remained unfulfilled. Finally, in 2005, it was brought back to Ethiopia, but with great effort. The obelisk had to be cut into 3 sections, each weighing 60 tons, and was flown to Ethiopia in a Russian-built cargo plane. At the time, it was reported that this was the largest air freight operation in history. The runway at Axum had to be extended to accommodate the plane, which could only land at dawn due to Axum's high altitude at around 7,000 feet. Once the sections arrived at Axum's airport, they were transported by truck over a 3-mile distance to the Stele Park. The Ethiopian authorities had to reinforce 2 bridges along the route to support the weight of the cargo. This operation cost Italy around $10 million to complete. I'm always amazed at the effort it takes in modern times to move the artifacts that the ancients were able to build, move, and erect in one piece. How did they do it? Beyond these decorated giants, the park is dotted with smaller, rougher stele and broken blocks, hinting at a violent past. One stands out, with carvings of a granite box and column eerily similar to those in Egypt's Elephantine Island and Edfu Temple. Could these images hint at a deeper global connection? These objects have been dated primarily to the 1st to 4th centuries AD based on inscriptions, coins, and other artifacts found at the site. Here, archaeologists assume that the relative dating of the stele follows design evolution, which I've talked about in some of my other videos. This is the assumption that archaeologists make at sites all around the world, where they believe that the oldest artifacts are the smaller, rougher, undecorated ones, in this case dating to the 1st to 2nd centuries AD. Then they say that as this ancient culture advanced over time, they produced larger and more precise stonework, culminating in the Obelisk of Axum and its counterparts in the 3rd to 4th centuries AD. Archaeologists believe these obelisks served as markers for royal tombs, and they found approximately 30 tombs under the Stele Park. Most of these are simple, rough-hewn tombs cut directly into the bedrock, like the photo I have on the screen. These are very different from the precision-carved artifacts that tower above them. But there are a few of these subterranean structures that really stand out as something different. They are built with massive hewn stone blocks with self-locking joints. These tombs are the very definition of precision engineering. Beneath the Great Stele lies one of these chambers called the Mausoleum, dated to 250 to 350 AD. It is reached by a 7-meter stone stairway and entered through a carved doorway. Sealed with large slabs, it was damaged when the giant stele fell. Inside, a central chamber branches into 10 side rooms, 5 on each side, with carved false doors and self-locking stone joints with no mortar. As you can tell, this is a very different structure than the other rougher tombs I showed you before. Nearby, you'll also find the Tomb of the False Door. It was uncovered in 1972 when erosion revealed the top of the carved stone slab. It features a false door that's virtually identical to those on the obelisks. The substructure is comprised of an antechamber and an inner chamber. Metal clamps were used in the construction, and this is the only site in Axum where such a clamp has been preserved in the stone. The large blocks that were used to build this structure were carefully dressed and fitted, and those comprising the substructure were exceptionally massive with tight interlocking joints. This stonework reminds me of some of the stonework we see in Egypt and Peru. The builders of this chamber were true masters. Take a look at some of these side-by-side photos I have of the stonework in this chamber compared to the stonework found in the Coricancha in Peru and the Valley Temple in Egypt. It's strikingly similar. Speaking of similarities, in the inner chamber there was a single stone box, which archaeologists call a sarcophagus. This tomb was looted in antiquity, and this box was severely mutilated. Although excavators recovered no trace of the original contents, these must have been, or at least were believed to be, of great value, based on the lengths to which the robbers went in order to gain access. Even though this chamber was clearly looted, the pottery and glass fragments that were found in the chamber were used to date this site to the 3rd to 4th centuries AD. More on that later. Finally, up the road about 2 kilometers is another incredible underground megalithic site. This site, which has 2 areas side by side beneath a shared superstructure, are considered twin tombs attributed to the king and his son. Each underground chamber is approached by a separate stairway, fully roofed, constructed of huge, carefully dressed blocks of a regular shape, each perfectly fitted to the next. These blocks are incredible. Inside one of the rooms in the chamber, which is entered through a portal cut in vertical monolithic slabs, are 3 granite boxes, similar to the one in the Tomb of the False Door. One of these boxes even has nubs. Archaeologists say that these were the tombs of the king, his wife, and his son. This structure has been dated to the 6th century AD, 300 years later than the Tomb of the False Door. Archaeologists primarily date this to the 6th century based on cross motifs that were found inside the chamber, which you can see in the photos on the screen. These crosses match the crosses found on Axumite coins minted during the king's reign in the 6th century. So this site has been dated as such. Again, this underground chamber was heavily looted. So we know that the people were in and out of this area over centuries. To me, these crosses look like they were added later. The quality of these carvings is far inferior to the megalithic stonework upon which they were carved. So if we look at the entire picture of the monoliths and the precision-cut chambers in Axum, archaeologists peg the earliest rough-hewn stele to the 1st century AD. They argue that the stele evolved from rough stones to elaborate designs by the 3rd to 4th centuries. Then, pre-Christian symbols gave way to crosses after Axum's 330 AD conversion to Christianity, capping off these sites around the 6th century AD before the entire civilization fell in the 7th century. Case closed, right? Maybe not. There are sites just outside of Axum, like the Great Temple of Yeha, that archaeologists say were built in 700 BC, predating the sites we're discussing today by centuries. Archaeologists call these outlier sites pre-Axumite. These structures are masterpieces of megalithic building and of some really incredible and mysterious stonework that closely resembles the decorations we see on the obelisks and false doors of the tombs. These are the sites I will be covering in my next episode. You won't want to miss it. In my opinion, this monumental architecture that resembles megaliths in Peru, Egypt, and elsewhere, combined with the weak dating methodology used by archaeologists, certainly leaves open at least the possibility that these sites are much older than what we're being told. In fact, I believe it's possible that the official history has it exactly backwards, that the decorated stele and the precision-cut megalithic chambers with granite boxes, nubs, and metal clamps aren't the newest construction in Axum, but are in fact the oldest. Then the later Axumite culture settled around these incredible sites, leaving their coins, pottery, and other material goods in the soil, and added their own rock-cut tombs and rough-hewn monoliths around the pre-existing megaliths. You need only look through a few archaeological reports on Axum to see that there are megalithic sites all over the surrounding countryside, deeply buried and minimally studied. Here I've included just a couple of examples. In this site outside of Axum, you see precision megalithic blocks protruding from a wall made of smaller rock construction. There's also this giant slab embedded in the hillside with clamp marks surrounded by small stonework. Are these works of megalithic engineering really done by the same culture that created these ceramic jars and rough-cut tombs? At any rate, these incredible ancient sites raise their fair share of questions. What do you think? Are these sites a relic of an older civilization? I would love to hear your thoughts and theories. If you enjoyed this episode, please hit that subscribe button, give me a thumbs up, and leave a review on your favorite platform. Your support helps me grow this channel. You can also follow me on Instagram, X, and Facebook at Secrets in Stone. We'll see you next time.